Which car would you prefer? Not necessarily these two, but the bottom of the range, the cooking model with none of the bells and whistles, or the top of the range with all of the bits, and definitely the most expensive one. This particular car is the 623 GSI, top of the range, alloy wheels, 4 electric windows, ABS, electric mirrors, airbags, automatic gearbox, leather interior, and this is the base spec model with steel wheels. Only 2 electric windows, manually operated mirrors, cloth seats, no aircon, no ABS, no airbags, no sunroof. I think most people would go for all of the extra bits, but why? Why are those things important? Because they're not, are they? What's the difference between pressing a button to make a window go down or using a winder? Who really cares? Why are we obsessed with things being electric? You may go for the idea of fewer toys means fewer things to go wrong, but these are old cars. The electrics in these are fine. The only way they go wrong is by lack of use or improper use. Leather seats I can properly understand, but electric seats? What I'm failing to explain here is electric seats, electric mirrors, they're all a bit pointless because you only really set them once, then forget about them. So it's just extra weight, extra motors, expense for no real purpose. In the 90s, things like aircon, cruise control weren't that commonplace. These days, of course, they're seen as being absolute necessities, which is really more of a sign of our times than how necessary they are, because, well, they're not, are they? This car doesn't have leather seats, it has manually operated seats, which I think is perfectly good. The only thing is, it doesn't actually have a... The only thing is, it doesn't seem to have any height adjustment. There is a slight age difference between these two very similar cars of 5 years. This one is 30 years old, that one is 25, and that means that the newer car does have some things, upgrades by default, and those are the airbags, passenger and driver side airbag, but at the sacrifice, in my opinion, of the dashboard. You see, this one has a lovely mat on there and a nice little wood insert, and I prefer that. This is very much a case of, oh, we should have an airbag in this, what can we do about it? Well, let's just retrofit one. Factory retrofitting is the kind of thing they used to do quite a lot at Rover, I think. But there is one thing I much prefer in the fancy car rather than the bog standard one, and that is the door cards. Having these wood cappings on, they just look so fitting with the car. This one looks kind of empty without them somehow. Oh dear, that's definitely a point down for the underdog there. Another major thing for me is the colour. This champagne gold just looks so fitting with this car. It looks so 1990s aspiration. I know, I've said that before, whereas Nightfire Red was a very, very common colour. And because it's common, it makes it a bit boring. And because most people don't know how to look after paint, it makes them usually a bit boring. However, this video isn't supposed to be about colours, it's supposed to be about the cars. The GSI has mud flaps, whereas this one doesn't. But then again, what are mud flaps? The idea of the mud flap, of course, is to catch the dirt and stop it from spraying up the side of the car, making it look nicer. But in actual fact, they're just a dirt trap and they make things rot. Rover always were pretty good when it comes to attention to detail, such as this nice kick strip just there. The weird thing is though, they haven't put it in the back, which makes it look inconsistent. Now, bear with me here, because what that reminds me of is a lady painting her toenails, and she doesn't bother painting the small toenail because it's too small. At least with the newer model, they rectified that by putting one in the back as well. And the back of the Rover 600 is a nice place to be. Well, it would be if you was quite small, because actually the legroom isn't fantastic. Not with the front seat spread back to big man position. The Rover 600 didn't really change a great deal in its lifespan, and it was around for quite a while. In fact, 7 years, I think, with only a couple of minor tweaks here and there, which is quite a long time for a particular car. A particular car that only had one body as well. There's no estate version, no hatchback, no coupe version. It was just a saloon car, that's it, a saloon car. It's not even a proper Rover, is it? Because it's actually just a Honda Accord with a few tweaks on it to make it look more like a Rover. But that's not really a bad thing, because the Honda Accord was a fabulous car. And that means that the Rover 600 is also a fabulous car as well. Driving characteristics of both these cars are both excellent. They're very, very easy to live with. They're very nice cars. But we're going off the point again ever so slightly. Because the point is, which is best? The base model or the executive model? If you know me, you're going to assume that I'm going to say the base model, the underdog, because I like the underdog. I do. I love the underdog. The underdog is the kind of thing I look out for, which is exactly why I like Rover in the first place and not something like BMW, because they produce cars that were better than what they were credited for, and so therefore the underdog is exactly what you'd expect me to like the best. But I may just surprise you here. Underneath the bonnet of the Rover 620 is a 2-litre single cam engine. I think it has about 118 brake horsepower, which doesn't really sound like a great deal for what is quite a big car. This one, on the other hand, I do know for definite, is a 2.3 twin cam engine with 163 brake horsepower, and that is much more like it. This is definitely what you would call a proper 90s executive saloon. It's refined, it's nippy, it's smooth, the gearbox is effortless, and the overall drive is just, well, for want of a better word, perfect. In fact, there isn't a better word for it. It is, it's just perfect. That's really it. There's just no argument that this is the better car. It is better in every way. Today I'm going to drive home my favourite of these two cars. And surprise, surprise, here I am driving the 620 as opposed to the 623. I've gone for the underdog, the cheapo one, the one that still needs work, the tatty little friend that is dependable. But why? Well, this might surprise you, but on the 623, the MOT's run out, and I've only just noticed, so I can't drive it home anyway, so I've got to use this one. But that's not actually why. There are quite a number of reasons that actually I kind of prefer this car. The obvious one is that it's not precious. The other is that I like the fact that it's older. A 30-year-old car is much more of a retro car than a 25-year-old car. This one, although it has a 2-litre single cam engine, it actually feels quicker than the other one. And that's going to be down to it having a manual gearbox and not an automatic. Although an automatic does suit a car like this, it does sap away quite a bit of the power. Toys in the car, all of those things, to me, it's just extra things that you don't use. Extra things for you to think you should be using, and if you're not using them, then you're not getting your money's worth out of it. So if I'm not going to use it, I don't really particularly want it in the car. It's a little bit like the difference between Netflix and old style TV where we had only 3 or 4 channels. The old days, if you wanted to watch TV, you just used to watch it. And now it's, of course, what people do. They put on Netflix and spend an hour looking at what they don't want to watch. So, non-ironically, I actually prefer this car. How about that? Was you expecting that? You probably was. And now it's time to thank the channel members. The channel members of Project Nigel are as follows: Yorkshire Staffies, Marcus Hayes Spinks, David Rook Bates, Trisha Oldman, Mr. Mickey, Robin Giles, Otter GT, Phased Out, Mr. F, Everything Cars, Rose Cheeks, Tracy's Afterburn or something like that, Jimmy Quinn, Union Flag, Boaty's World, Steve Colk, Dick Dastardly, Windy Miller, GPSOMG, Pingu Concord, Daniel Wheelwright, that guy from Sati Alpha, Black Lines Armour, Ashley Stewart, Cars with JC, Deep Blue Dreams, Richard Mahon, Too Many Cars Steve, Philip Smith, Frank G _05, Kevin Craven, JC02WAX, Tim Button, Tim Sheridan, James Mayo, Aaron Gill, Granny Saff, Neil Gibbons aka the Gibbonator, Stu, Dinosaur Dad, Mark Reynolds, Carl Davis, Dave Smith, Son of Jack 71, Typhoon Cat, Lee Thorndike, James Smith, Classic Wheels Wales, Fubarad Foxtrot, Johnny Crook, Simon Brader, Greg Anderson, Smashing Pistons, and Alan Searle.